All right, guys, today I want to talk a little bit about electric vehicles and why, while the technology is somewhat cool, and I'll talk about that in a minute with my experience with lithium polymer batteries, remote control helicopters, and how lithium batteries have been a game changer for people who are in the RC hobby and people with electric vehicles, of course, but how the technology is just not perfected. When you drive a gas-powered car, technology is perfected. These things can go a couple 100,000 miles with minimal maintenance. But when you're driving something like a Tesla or an EV from another manufacturer, these things turn out to not be all that reliable. Not just the battery, but other drive units in the car, as far as the drive motor, the ECU, the battery, kind of leave you with a very unreliable experience for a premium price. And you're really not saving any money on the gas variable, because a lot of these supercharging stations, which were free at a time, are now charging people between $20 and $40 to supercharge their electric vehicle, which usually gets you about 200 miles range, where $25 in my Mazda 3 gets me $500 range, of gas-powered goodness. So first I want to talk about the big story right now is, why are Tesla batteries dying in the cold? This is something that anybody who did any research before they bought an EV should understand, that these EV batteries, they work best in room temperature, which is kind of crazy to say. Like, how is this a step up in technology when you have to drive your vehicle that works best in room temperature, where a gas-powered vehicle, you can start that thing up in minus 50 degrees or 120 degrees and it's just fine. So freezing temperatures across central U.S. have cut electric vehicles' range and left drivers facing long lines at charging stations. For nearly a week, frigid temperatures from Chicago to northern Texas have made life painful for electric vehicle owners, with reduced driving range and hours of waiting at charging stations. And guys, this is nothing new. So it's a lot worse right now because of what's going on with the charging stations. Essentially, it gets cold, the charging stations break, or your car has to be at an optimal temperature to be charged. And if it's not, it just won't charge. So you have people trying to charge their car all day at these charging stations and nothing's happening. It is ruining people's lives. Now, even when things are working optimal for electric vehicles, you can find the news stories, the articles. This one story is one of 1,000 that are on YouTube. Really fucking bad idea. Hours added to road trip on my 2024 electric Genesis electrified. Now, she goes into saying how she loves the car, but she has to charge the thing constantly. She tried to make it essentially from her house to her mom's house, which I think was like 300 miles or something like that. And she barely made it getting there, and she was nervous the whole time. I think she had to stop at a supercharger, which was broken, and then she had to do like one of those trickle chargers where she had to sit there for a couple hours to get like 30 minutes. Then when she drives back from her mom's house, she says, okay, I'm going to supercharge the car. And they were all broken. And then the one that was available, there was a line. So she had to find, again, like a slow charger at a hotel and sit there for hours just so she could get 50 miles to get back home. And this is what people are dealing with right now with electric vehicles. They're completely impractical. The only way an electric vehicle is practical for you is if you have a house, you have a garage, you can charge the vehicle at your house, and you're just using that vehicle to drive around town. In a situation like that, totally practical. You're still going to spend a shit ton of money for the car, and your insurance is going to be through the roof, but at least that's practical. If you're looking to like buy an electric vehicle for because you need to like have a reliable work vehicle, or you need a vehicle that can last 200,000 miles because you're driving your kids around, you want a workhorse vehicle, it's not going to work. It's a complete scam, and the liberal Democrats have been pushing this on people. Essentially, people have been going bankrupt because of this. This is an interesting video. I'm not going to play all of it, but this guy was convinced by this bitch, this blonde bitch right here. This is your typical, she's hot and all, but she's nasty, because she will get you wrecked. This woman right here, this liberal, will get you wrecked. This guy right here was making a good living on Uber. He had a Toyota Camry. She came in and convinced him to get a Tesla, which he did. He bought a Tesla for like 50,000 miles, and because he's an Uber driver, so he's not making a ton of money anyway. But you know, he's making enough, provide for his family. He's got a nice house in Virginia, which is expensive. The guy's doing good for himself, right? He's doing good. He's supporting his family. This bitch comes in. You gotta get an EV. You don't have to spend any money on gas, and it blows up in his face after driving for a year and a half. The battery goes up, and Tesla wants $20,000 to replace the battery. And they tell him, we are going to replace the battery for $20,000, but we're going to put a used battery in the car.
Mind frame, 8 years or 100,000 miles is the warranty on the battery. They don't expect you to do 100,000 miles in a year.
Right. So you basically put 8 years
in 1 year. Lots of calls.
But this is the thing. Tesla warranties their battery for 100,000 miles or 8 years. A lot of people put 50,000 miles on their car a year, 70,000 miles, 30,000. So say you put 40,000 miles in your car. I used to be full-time private investigator doing insurance fraud investigations all over Maryland, D.C., Pennsylvania. I would put 50,000 miles on my car a year. So that means if I bought a Tesla, within 2 years, the battery would be dead and I'm out $25,000. What kind of reliability is that? Even on a gas-powered car, if I kill the engine after 2 years, $3,000, $4,000 can get me a brand new engine. So essentially this guy, $50,000 for a car, he drove it for a year, battery went up, he had to spend $20,000 for an unwarranted battery to be put back in. Now he doesn't even drive the car anymore because he's afraid the whole thing's going to blow up on him. Now, of course, this woman felt bad for him. So she came in and gave him a bunch of money because she has like 205,000 subscribers and she felt bad for him. But this is what happens when liberal Democrats, they meddle in what's working in America. You got an average working class guy. They come in saying, oh, you got to get this brand new technology, which for her, she probably drives 1,000 miles a year. She has her mansion. She drives the electric vehicle to Starbucks every day, gets her cup of coffee, comes home, drops her kid off at school. She puts like a couple thousand miles on the car a year. Tesla's perfect for that. But for a working man, give me a break. And you're also starting to hear people saying, I was going back to what I was saying earlier, like people who actually have to work for a living trying to use an electric vehicle. Well, we'll start with the tippity top. Tesla's coming out now with this new tractor trailer. They're saying it works off a big giant battery. The thing's hundreds of thousands of dollars and it gets 500 miles range. So if you're a tractor trailer driver and you have a nice truck and a tractor trailer, a diesel tractor trailer truck gets 2,000 miles range, between 900 and 2,000, depending on how big your gas tank is. And these guys, they're on time constraints. They got to get there. They got to get it done. If the engine breaks down, they got a diesel mechanic. They have it all figured out. They can work on these vehicles themselves. A lot of tractor trailer drivers and truckers can work on their vehicles themselves. Why would, in God's name, would they go out and buy a Tesla truck that gets 500 miles of range? And we know it's not going to be 500 miles. We know once you put a load on there and everything is probably down to 100 miles. It's just not going to work. You're going backwards in technology. Liberal Democrats are evolving backwards. Here's a liberal right here, Hoovies Garage, one of my favorite car channels. He bought a Ford Lightning. He did a whole thing on it, and it turned out to be a disaster. The first video he made when he first got it was towing with my Ford Lightning. Total disaster. He was very excited to get this truck. He spent like $100,000 for it. Thing was supposed to get like 300 miles range. He hooks like a little 500-pound trailer up to it, and the thing ends up getting like 70 miles of range. Disaster. Then, a few months later, he makes a video, I sold my Ford Lightning EV because winter battery performance was a disaster. And this isn't just Ford Lightning. This is every EV. They're junk. They don't work. You're evolving backwards. Great little cars for golf carts on the golf course. You want to putter around your neighborhood. You want to putter around town, have an electric vehicle. That's great. But they're completely impractical for anybody who has to work. Can you imagine buying a Ford Lightning and you're a carpenter or a guy who does drywall or somebody who needs to haul something? Say you own a landscaping company and you need to haul your lawnmowers, and you get 70 miles of range after spending $100,000 for this truck. When you can just go on Craigslist and buy a used Toyota Tacoma, the thing will run you another 100,000 miles and you'll get 25 miles per gallon. That means on a full tank, you'll get 400 or 500 miles for 40 or 50 bucks. It's a no-brainer. And that's why you're starting to see stories now. You know, Toyota came out last year and said they don't like EVs. The CEO said they're not the future, and everybody gave him shit on it, but now people are starting to see it. Toyota has an important warning for electric vehicle enthusiasts. He got a lot of shit for this. The electric vehicle roadway has been bumpy lately, yeah, to say the least. Battery supply chain present an expensive challenge to automakers. Both price and a lack of charging infrastructure has consumers holding off on making the EV purchase. Yeah, EVs are down 50%. If you bought a Tesla 2 years ago for $70,000, you can now get that same car for $40,000. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad for your investment. Amid this challenging environment, Toyota Chairman Akio said that people are finally seeing reality regarding electric vehicles. Toyota's pronouncement came a day after General Motors and Honda canceled their proposition partnership to develop more affordable electric vehicles. The goal of the partnership was to create an EV that sells for $30,000 by 2027. They gave up on that because they know it's impossible. But the EV environment isn't feeling as lucrative to automakers as it once did. After extensive studies and analysis, we have come to a mutual decision to discontinue the program. So essentially, what's happening right now, these auto manufacturers put billions into EVs because the government essentially told them to. The government said, we'll help you out, we'll give you tax incentives if you put billions into these EVs, and now it's all backfiring in their face, which is a good example of why you don't listen to government, right? You don't listen to Gavin Newsom, you do what you think is going to make you money. The company also ditched a target to make 400,000 EVs by mid-2024. So they're just getting out of the EV thing altogether. Last week, Ford said it was slowing down the production of its F-150 Lightning truck. This article came out a couple days ago. F-150 Lightning is not selling, and they're shutting down like by 60-70%, and they're taking those workers to have them build gas-powered Ford Broncos. So what ended up happening was a lot of people bought EVs because the government pushed it down their throat. All the great commercials, the people think they're saving the world, new technology, so people with money bought them. It got to be a status thing as well, buying electric vehicles. And now the recent study is between 50 and 70% of everybody who has bought an electric vehicle regrets it. And now they're going back to a hybrid or a purely gas-powered vehicle. If you notice, Tesla stock is down. The other problem with EVs is the safety issue, and this is something I know a little bit about. I'm kind of a huge dork. About 10, 15 years ago, I was really big into remote control helicopters. Here's one of my helicopters right here. Did a bunch of upgrades on it. I really haven't flown electric helicopters in like 5-6 years, ever since I had kids at all time. But when I first got into electric helicopters, they did not use lithium polymer batteries like this. We had the old school batteries. I mean, they were called like NECAD or something like that, and they were very reliable. They wouldn't blow up on you or anything, but you'd probably be able to get this helicopter on a full charge to fly for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, which is why a lot of people didn't get into remote control helicopters, or you had to keep a bunch of batteries in your pocket. Well, once these lithium polymer batteries came out, and this is the battery that goes for this helicopter, you know, this battery on a full charge can make this helicopter fly for 15 minutes, which when you're flying a helicopter, that's all you need. That's a long time. You have 2 of these batteries, you got 30 minutes. Very cool stuff. The one thing about these batteries that I learned 10, 15 years ago, these are the same type of battery. This is a very good quality lithium polymer battery. These are the same type of batteries used in Tesla vehicles or any EV for that matter. And the thing I learned 10, 15 years ago is these things are highly unstable. After you fly the electric helicopter, they blow up. So right now, this battery is decharged, but when it gets fully charged or when you actually use it, it will almost double in size. It blows up. Then it kind of slowly goes down. Now, it also gets very hot. So this is kind of what happens. Here's an example right here of what can happen with these lithium polymer batteries. So basically, these same batteries are what's used in electric vehicles. Now, of course, they're better quality. They encase them with metal. The cells are supposedly better quality. But when you produce hundreds of thousands of these vehicles with these electric batteries, you're going to have failures. And the problem is, when you end up having a failure in an electric vehicle, it's not good. So here's a guy right here. Well, for one, a lot of people are parking their electric vehicles in their garages, and it's just burning down their old house. Here's a guy right here who was driving his Tesla, and the thing just caught on fire, and it cut off the electric door system, so he had to bust out the window to get out.
Flames, or not flames, but it's smoking up. My battery died on my Tesla, and I don't know what happened. Yeah. That was, I had to smash the window.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I kicked through the window.
Yeah.
Because everything stopped.
Yeah.
The power didn't work. The door didn't open. The windows didn't go down. So I'm like, hey,
And the problem is when these electric vehicles catch fire, it's usually from the battery. You cannot put this fire out. So the one thing I learned about electric helicopters, I also have an electric remote control car that has a big giant LiPo battery, which I keep outside in the garage. So the thing is, and it's snowing here today, and I really didn't want to go out and get it. This battery I actually shouldn't keep in the house. So the one thing I learned a long time ago about lithium polymer batteries, it even says on the battery pack, 10 years ago when I would buy these battery packs, do not store in your house. If you store it in a house, they had a special like little Velcro thing you can put it in, and it will prevent your house from catching on fire. So I learned 10, 15 years ago these things were extremely volatile, great for long range on a helicopter or a car or a real car, but they're extremely dangerous. I've had many of these batteries blow up on me. They start smoking, they blow up, they start leaking, they catch on fire. And that's why I never keep these inside. I actually keep this in like a mud room. This is a very small one. Some of my lithium polymer batteries are like this big, but this is a small one, and it also has no charge left in it because I had flown this helicopter 6 months ago, and the battery completely died, and I haven't charged it since. But I knew never to keep these inside. But these Tesla vehicles, these EV vehicles, people are parking them in their garage. You got your family inside the vehicle. When these things catch on fire, it's almost impossible to put them out. Essentially, what they have to do is wait for the battery to essentially stop burning. There's no way to put them out. You can find all the stories. Now, with your gas-powered vehicle, if it catches on fire, once the gas is gone, they can put it out. They can also smother it. They can also take away the oxygen. They have special compounds. The firefighters can spray on your car, and that will put out the fire. But with electric vehicles, there's almost no way to put out the fire. Extremely dangerous, unreliable, shitty technology. And of course, we talked about this article, Ford cuts production of F-150 Lightning pickup on weaker than expected sales. So essentially, guys, this video is essentially, we've covered the dangers of electric vehicles. We've covered why they're not practical, why nobody wants them anymore. But the one thing we haven't talked about, which is probably one of the biggest, is how unreliable these vehicles are. We talked about the Uber driver where he bought the Tesla and the thing blew up in his face, and he has a $50,000 payment on it. But all you have to do is go on YouTube and look at Tesla out of warranty repairs or EVs, and you will see people getting $50,000 bills, $20,000 bills. I mean, you can just go down the list. My $6,000 out of warranty Tesla repair, or is that $60,000? My expensive out of warranty Tesla repair. Out of warranty Tesla repair. I mean, people just complaining about how much. My insane $23,000 Tesla repair. I mean, this goes on forever. Hundreds of thousands of videos. And even more interesting is to go on the Tesla out of warranty Reddit or forums, and you will just see people complaining, saying how they're bankrupt. The car is bankrupt. The car has bankrupted them. They have no money. The battery's done, and Tesla will do nothing to help them. The drive motor went up. They can't afford the $10,000 to fix that, and they still own $50,000. They still owe $50,000 on their vehicle. So Consumers Report came out. And the big headline is, because this was the big thing pushed down people's throats by the liberal Democrats. Oh my God, get yourself an electric vehicle. You don't have to worry about anything. They never break. The batteries go for a couple 100,000 miles. You don't have to do oil changes. You don't have to do brakes as much because they have the regenerative braking. You don't have to do fluids like coolant or anything like that. They're so cheap and they're so easy to maintain. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's complete bullshit. So the problem was, when these electric vehicles have only been out for the past 10 years, so there wasn't data back then to actually show how unreliable these cars are, because when they were brand new, they run relatively trouble-free for a couple years, and it takes years to compile that data. Well, here it is, Consumers Report, everybody trusts Consumers Report. Electric vehicles are less reliable than conventional cars. Hybrids are the most reliable cars. Yeah, I agree with that, especially if you get a Prius. And EVs, Tesla's Model 5 is one of the most unreliable cars. So here it is, EVs are the most unreliable cars, and that's what I've been saying for years. So there's no benefit to buying an electric vehicle at this point. And I'm all about technology. You can see I'm remote control helicopters. Lithium polymer battery was the coolest invention ever for anybody in remote control vehicles. Like I said, awesome. And I'm glad they invented it, but highly unstable, and it's still a new technology. So you're far better off if you're looking for a reliable vehicle. Just go out and get yourself a Toyota Corolla or a Toyota Camry. If you're looking for a used vehicle, you absolutely want to stay away from these electric vehicles because you're just asking for problems. Once the warranty goes up on these electric vehicles, you're looking at $10,000, $20,000 every time it breaks down. Now, I drive a Mazda 3. When my Mazda 3 breaks down, I can actually go on YouTube and try to fix it myself. Or I can go on Craigslist and get a mechanic to actually come to my house for $20 an hour. Or worst case scenario, I have to take it to the garage down my street where they charge $40, $50 an hour, and they can fix most problems on that car for a couple $100. When your Tesla or your Nissan electric vehicle goes up, you can't take it to Joe Blow Mechanic down the road. They won't touch it. You have to take it to the dealer. And anybody knows that car dealers are scammers and they're going to rip you off. And everybody knows, this isn't just me making this stuff up, guys. Car dealers are the most expensive place to get your car fixed. And with a Tesla or EV, you have no choice. Billy Bob is not going to touch your Tesla. He doesn't know how to work on it, and he doesn't have the tools to work on it. So people are starting to realize that as the warranties die out on their EVs, that, oh my God, I have to spend $5,000 every time this thing breaks down. And people are selling these things at record rate, which is why now you can get a Tesla for $20,000, a Model 3. Now, the last story I want to talk about is kind of like the nail in the coffin. If you still are kind of on the cusp, well, electric vehicles, you know, they're good. They have their problems, but good. But okay, let's look at this article. So a couple years ago, Hertz thought they could save a lot of money by getting rid of their gas-powered cars and substituting them with Tesla and EVs. So a couple years later, what's happening? What has Hertz decided, which is purely a company looking for profit? Rental giant Hertz dumps EV vehicles, including Teslas, for gas cars. So right now, Hertz is trying to sell 60 to 70% of all their electric vehicles. Why? Why are they trying to do this? Because of repair costs. These things are so expensive. When Joe Bob takes out the Tesla and he runs over something in the middle of the road, say he runs over a trash bag in the middle of the road, and it does a little bit of damage underneath the vehicle, it totals the whole vehicle because it pierces the battery compartment. They can't fix it. Hertz has to spend $200 an hour to have Tesla fix it. The vehicle's off the road for months. And on top of that, just repair cost off the bat. These are vehicles that are run heavy miles. People rent them. People don't know how to drive them. So people bring the thing back. Okay, it now has 100,000 miles on it. The drive motor went up. Well, that's $10,000. Okay, the battery went up. We got to replace the battery. Tesla charges them $25,000 for a battery, which is essentially more than a car is worth. So Hertz, they took a gamble. They fell into it. Most likely the government kind of pushed them to do it. Guys like Gavin Newsom, oh, you got to get in these new electric vehicles. And it backfired in their face, and they lost millions of dollars. So essentially, everybody who gets involved with electric vehicles, whether it's you or your family member, they end up getting screwed by the large repair cost. Whether it's Hertz, a big company, they end up getting screwed and losing hundreds of millions of dollars. Whether it's a car manufacturer who decides to build EVs, they're losing billions. Ford's losing billions. Chevy's using billions. Nobody wants these cars anymore. So my thing is, electric vehicles, cool technology, but right now it's essentially just a rich man's toy to drive around your town, show off. It's a status thing driving these Teslas, just like why people buy Lamborghinis and Ferraris. Oh, this person's driving the Tesla, so they must have $50,000 or $100,000 to spend on a car. It's all about status, but these vehicles are completely impractical unless, like I said, you can charge it in your garage and you're just driving 100 miles a day around town. Then there's some convenience there because you don't have to go to the gas station. But right now, The technology on these vehicles and these batteries isn't there yet. I think with electric vehicles, we're still about 10, 20 years away. I think they need to come up with a better battery technology where you get 1,000 miles per charge and there's no fires. They need to figure out a way to make it so there's no fires. I think once that happens, I'll be a little bit more sold on electric vehicles. And they also have to make it so the things are reliable and so other repair hubs can fix your vehicle. Until that happens, guys, impractical vehicle, if you're a working man, a plumber, electrician, a carpenter, you need a work vehicle. EVs aren't the way to go. If you're a trucker, EVs aren't the way to go. If you're an Uber driver, you know, an Uber driver should be the ultimate test because they're actually driving all day. And I just showed you guys that article. Uber drivers are now all switching back to gas-powered cars. So that's my video on EVs. Like I said, I've been talking shit about EVs for the past 10 years, trying to talk people out of buying them. And, you know, mainly for me, my experience with lithium polymer batteries, I knew they were just an accident waiting to happen. Like if you were to take this battery right here and blow it up 20 size and put it in a car, I wouldn't get into that thing with my family. I've seen these things blow up. You know, the last time one of these batteries blew up in my garage, it put a hole in the concrete. I'm not putting that thing under my butt, you know, when I'm driving down the road, or my son. It's absolutely crazy. All right, guys, like and subscribe. Talk to you later.